welcome our blood viewers to RTD's News English edition. As usual, we'll begin tonight's news with the major and top highlights. Let's follow. The 16th edition of the walking tour in Arta took place today. Dozens of Congolese demonstrated Thursday after an agreement to end the M23 rebellion in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Those were our major and top highlights. Welcome back to our newsroom, our beloved viewers. In this morning of Friday, the lovers of sports and walking from all horizons met to attend and honor the initiative of the event, which is a capital that of the 16th edition of the Pedestrian Walk of Arta, or African Peace Walk. This strong and commendable initiative was organized by the Prefecture of Arta in collaboration with the different sectoral ministers and with the participation of the walkers. Several members of the government, including the Minister of Culture, Dr. Hibu Mu'min, and the Minister of Energy, Mr. Yunus Ali Gedi, members of Parliament, including Mrs. Aisha Muhammad Abdullah, high-ranking military officers and representatives of international organizations took part in this peace walk on the heights of Arta. The 16th edition of the Arta Walk is a must for all walkers who came in force from the capital and from the interior regions. 2 circuits were planned for the 16th edition of the Area Peace Walk: for the beginners, 15 km, and for the novice, 7 km. The military forces participated massively in the 16th edition, with a notable participation of the Coast Guard. Moreover, we could notice this morning a strong participation of women who run the stages of the 2 circuits as much as the men. A standoff animation was set up for the animation with professional artists who performed during the march and after. Let's follow. The place of June 27th, a symbol of the sovereignty of our country, has hosted this afternoon, Friday, November 25th, the 3rd edition of the 10 kilometers Air Djibouti race. Marathon, organized by the national company Air Djibouti in partnership with the Athletics Federation of Djibouti and the Djiboutian Olympic Community. The edition of this year saw the participation of some 300 athletes, composed of young men and girls from several sports formations of the Djibouti Armed Forces, the Republican Guard, the Authority of Ports and Free Zones of Djibouti, the Coast Guard, the University of Djibouti, and the National Police. This initiative comes from the General Manager of Air Djibouti, Mr. Abdurrahman Ali Abdullahi, who, through his this annual sporting event, promotes national athletics. During a ceremony rich in music and folkloric dances organized at the end of this successive arrivals of the athletes of the different categories, the General Manager of Air Djibouti, Mr. Abdurrahman Ali Abdullahi, the President of the FDA, Said Ismail Hassan, and the other officials present at this sporting event gave to the first 5 of each event trophies and envelopes containing money. the Minister of National Education and Vocational Training, Mr. Mustafa Mohamed Mahmoud, received in his office the delegation of the French Ministry of National Education and Youth for the feedback meeting of the mission it conducted all week in Djibouti. The delegation was introduced by the Consular of Cooperation in Cultural Action of the French Embassy in Djibouti, Mr. Stéphane Gallet. The opportunity for the Minister to express his sincere thanks to the delegation for this mission of high importance. He stressed the interest of this official trip of more than 11 academic inspectors from several academics under the leadership of the French Ministry of Education and Youth, with whom MEMFOP is preparing to engage in a long-term educational partnership that will cover a series of sensitive areas. After this short introduction, the French inspectors shared their feelings and their assessments of the observation made in the field, as well as the exchange with the trainee inspectors on their expectations and their needs to support in the field. Both of them made a brief restitution of their mission and the main lines of the work that they plan to bring to their Djiboutian counterparts that they had to train during their internships in French academies. Mr. Mustafa Mohamed Mahmoud finally gave precious gifts to members of the delegation to whom he wished a very good return before a probable next visit to Djibouti in the framework of the Franco-Djiboutian partnership. The delegation of the French Ministry of Education and Youth visited yesterday afternoon the Center for Research, Information and Protection of National Education, which is also known in short as CRIPEN. The distinguished visitors were welcomed by the Director General of CRIPEN, Mr. Said Nur Hassan, and senior officials of the center. The head of the delegation, Mr. Emmanuel Bali, in charge of cooperation in the Africa Department of the French Ministry of National Education and Youth, then had a long meeting with the Director General of CRIPEN, Mr. Said Nur Hassan, who presented the center. Then the delegation had a guided tour in the Documentation and Information Center, CDI, where they could discover the textbooks of all levels of education, but also the teaching aids designed by the designers of CRIPEN. The visit continued in the iconography cell, which provides the photos and texts requested by the authors. The head of the service Documentary Research and Computing, Mrs. Khadar Taher, made a projection of the photos which are inserted in the school books, such as the images of Djibouti of yesterday and today, the images of our culture, and etc. At the end of this discovery, the delegation went to the computer-assisted production and computer-assisted design departments, where the inspectors were able to discover the meticulous work of the technicians who lay out and give relief and color to the educational works that are sent to the international printers. Finally, the delegation visited the CRIPEN School Radio and Television Studios. The technicians of the RTD explained their work of conception and production of the radio and television programs that are produced on the national channel. They mentioned, among other things, the working conditions that were rather difficult during the period of the pandemic of COVID-19, but which had the merit of ensuring the continuity of courses via public television. Still on the national scene, like the rest of the world, Djiboutians have not been left behind to experience the best moments of the world. Thus, sites of projections were arranged in the capital, regions, and localities as today. Score rivals were at the meeting of the first evening before the kickoff to follow the games in a festive atmosphere. Last night, it was Portugal versus Ghana game that was in the spotlight. Cristiano Ronaldo's teammates beat Ghana on a score of 3-2, but they suffered a lot at the end of the game and could have been conceded the equalizer without a miracle. A very big game for the Black Stars, who can do better in the next games. Other game a little late in the evening, Brazil facing Serbian team well in the place at the beginning of the game. The madness of the team allowed to score twice by Richarlison and to win for this first game. But the joy could be short-lived as the young Neymar was treated on the sidelines. The young people of the districts made a point of thanking the Secretary of State in charge of sports for having allowed them to follow the World Cup 2022, which is being held in Qatar, in life and in integrity. As part of the implementation of the program of water and soil financed by the PMU of the Ministry of Agriculture, organized this exchange visit on the theme of natural assisted. It was within this framework that the steering committee of Dakhil have made a trip to the northern region led by the projector coordinator, accompanied by the management team, has welcomed the members of the steering committee of Dakhil. During their stay, the members of the committee shared their experiences and their innovative know-how in the rural assisted. The director of the PMU went back over the history of the innovative activity that was the subject of the experience exchange visit between the different pasture management communities in the 3 intervention zones of the program. The training of Djibouti athletes for the next edition of the Indian Ocean Youth and Sports Commission and Amateurs is intensifying. The physical training session for the athletes participating in this 12th edition have been held for several weeks under the supervision of a Cuban expert whose name goes by Mr. Parra at the Sports Study Center of Addis Ababa. Several topics related to the mental and physical preparation of the athletes before the competitors were discussed during the sessions. Since last year, peer selections have begun to prepare for the competition, which is a multi-sport event organized every 4 years for athletes from the Indian Ocean Islands. It should be noted that Djibouti will participate in 4 events: athletics, petanque, swimming, table tennis. Everything hopes and suggests that with the preparations in advance, Djibouti could do much better this year. The meeting room hosted this morning an important meeting between professionals of all sports disciplines. The meeting focused on the implementation of a project of tracing, enhancement, and digitization of sports archives in order to transmit to the new generation the history and stories of actors who have marked their time in their respective disciplines. Chaired by the technical advisor of the Secretary of State in charge of sports, Mr. Wahib Hamadou, the meeting brought together all the actors and representatives of different sports federations as well as the source institution likely to help in tracing and archiving, in this case, the RTD, the Nation, and the Chamber of Commerce. Shifting gears towards the international scene now, our blood viewers. In the streets of Goma, dozens of Congolese demonstrated Thursday after an agreement to end the M23 rebellion was signed in Luanda between representatives of Congo and Rwanda in the absence of the M23. In addition to doubts about the implementation of the agreement, participants announced the ambitious position of the EAC, the African Union, and the international community in the conflict between the M23 rebels and the Democratic Republic of Congo Defense Forces. Well, by this, our blood viewers, we finally conclude this edition. Thank you for being with us and make sure to tune in later for more. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you once again.